A night that changed everything. It all started while I was making dinner. The rhythmic tapping of the knife against the cutting board filled the kitchen, blending with the warm aroma of spices. But something felt different that night. Mary always came home at 6, but that day she was late. I checked my phone, no message. A strange unease settled in my chest. I glanced out the window and saw her. She stepped out of her car, hesitating at the door, as if gathering the strength to walk in. Then she spoke the words that shattered my world. "I don't love you anymore, John. I want a divorce." For a moment, time stood still. My grip loosened, and the knife slipped from my fingers, landing next to the half-chopped carrots on the cutting board. The kitchen, once familiar and warm, now felt distant and unreal. Mary stood before me, her shoulders squared, her face unreadable. But her eyes, they held something. A decision. Maybe relief. Maybe fear. "A divorce?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. Inside, something was breaking apart, but I refused to show it. She had known me for years, she could predict my reactions. If I lashed out, it would confirm her decision. But if I stayed cold, she wouldn't know what to do. She nodded. "Yes. I don't love you anymore." Her words echoed in the silence. 15 years. A home we built. The laughter. The quiet dinners. All reduced to 3 cold words. Then came the final blow. "There's someone else." It felt like a knife piercing my chest. I gripped the counter, inhaling deeply, forcing myself to stay in control. "What's his name?" I asked, my voice void of emotion. "Victor. Victor." I carved the name into my mind as a knot tightened in my stomach. How long had it been going on? When did it start? Where did they meet? How many times had she lied to me? How many nights had she lain beside me, thinking of him? I watched her as she spoke. Her hands were clasped together, her voice trembling. Yet, there was a stubbornness in her. A conviction. "Listen to me, John. This isn't a mistake. I want to live more. Being with you has become suffocating. Victor understands me." I let out a bitter, hollow laugh. "He understands you? And what about me?" For 15 years, I had given her everything. Love, security, a beautiful home, expensive vacations, luxury cars. And now she stood there telling me that he understood her? And that was why she wanted a divorce? I asked, picking up the knife again, staring at its sharp edge. Mary's eyes flickered toward the knife, but she didn't step back. She wasn't afraid of me. "No," she said. And that was the moment everything changed. "I want a divorce, but not yet." I frowned. "What do you mean, not yet?" She sighed, met my gaze, and delivered the greatest betrayal of all. "I want to build a future with Victor, but we're not ready yet. I need to be financially independent first. So I want an open marriage for a while." An open marriage? She was asking me to accept this, to turn a blind eye while she was with Victor, to share this house, this life, this lie, just so she could leave comfortably when she was ready. I put the knife down, because now I understood. This wasn't the end. This was the beginning of war. I slowly set the knife on the counter, suppressing the anger rising inside me. I couldn't let her see what I was feeling, because now, this had become a game, and I had to make every move perfectly. "So, how exactly is this open marriage supposed to work, Mary?" I asked, forcing a detached smile. Relief washed over her. She had expected me to explode, to shout, maybe even walk out of the house. But I was giving her the most terrifying response of all. I was agreeing. Her eyes sparkled. "John, do you really understand this?" I nodded, walking toward the kitchen sink and pouring myself a glass of water. I had to play this game. I wanted to throw the glass at her head. I wanted to scream, to tell her exactly how I felt. But I was in control. "It makes sense," I said with a shrug. "You live your life, and I'll create new opportunities for myself." The look of relief in her eyes was the most painful part of the betrayal, because she truly believed it. She thought I wasn't going to fight back. She was wrong. That night I didn't sleep. My first mission was to find out everything about Victor. Who was he? What had he done? Where could I find him? No war could be won without knowing the enemy. I opened my laptop and typed his name. Victor Reynolds. A successful real estate developer, known for his luxury projects. A polished reputation. But what was on paper never told the whole story. I had to find his dirty secrets. his weaknesses. And after some digging, I found the cracks beneath his perfect image. He was drowning in debt. His real estate empire was a bubble, constantly held up by fragile investments. If the banks and investors lost confidence in him, it would all come crashing down. If Victor lost everything, that would be justice. The first target was clear: destroy his business. But that wouldn't be enough. Mary needed to learn a lesson too. Betrayal had to come with a cost. By morning, as Mary sat down for breakfast, I joined her. To her, everything seemed normal. She thought she had fooled me. "What are you doing today?" she asked, taking a sip of coffee. I smiled. The game had begun. "I have a business meeting with some investors." What was I really going to do? Take my first step in ruining her lover? That day, I met with one of Victor's business associates. I planted a few small but damning details, just enough to start whispers about his financial instability. In the business world, trust was everything. And soon, Victor was going to lose it. Mary and Victor thought they were playing me. They had no idea they were the ones being played. They were playing with a deck of cards. I was playing chess. I had made my first move, igniting the spark that would shake Victor's empire. Now it was time to watch the fire spread. Mary started spending more time with Victor. She thought I had accepted everything. She was wrong. I was watching her. Every move, every text, every step. A small piece of software on her phone gave me access to her messages, her location, her secrets. They thought they were being careful. But every whispered promise, every stolen moment, they were all mine to read. And then I saw the message that sealed her fate. "Mary, I don't want to stay in the same house with him any longer. We have to be patient, Victor. I can't lose the money. Don't worry, baby. Soon, everything will be ours. I can't lose the money." That was Mary's true face. This wasn't about love. This was greed. This was theft. But they had forgotten one thing. I wasn't used to losing. It was time for my second move. I traced Victor's financial connections, found out who was covering his debts. Then I met with his banks and investors. I exposed him. I showed them his hidden liabilities, the cracks in his empire. In their eyes, Victor was no longer trustworthy. The first domino fell. Within a week, several major investors pulled out of his projects. His company started bleeding money. He panicked. Meanwhile, Mary was still clueless. It was time for the final blow. I needed Victor to believe that Mary was betraying him too. I crafted fake emails, messages that made it look like she was seeing someone else besides him. Then, I sent them to Victor's personal email.
To push him over the edge, I even left a few suspicious texts on his phone, carefully planted, just enough to plant the seed of doubt. Then I waited. That night, the war ended. Mary stormed into the house, furious, tears in her eyes. "Victor doesn't trust me," she screamed. "He thinks I'm cheating on him. I can't convince him." I hid my satisfaction, shaking my head slowly. Sometimes, people only understand how much betrayal hurts when they experience it themselves. Her face went pale. "What do you mean?" I leaned in, locking eyes with her. "I know this feeling very well, Mary. And now, so will you." That night, Victor broke up with Mary. He was already sinking financially. Now, he no longer trusted her. Mary had nothing left.